Alright, this video might end up being long. I might have to break this one up into two parts or something. Um, so I'm gonna make a video explaining all the ways that homeless people make money. And I guarantee there's something on this list that you can do. Probably multiple things. So if you're ever on the street or you're afraid of being on the street, just know that you're still going to be able to make money. The main thing is you can't let yourself get pulled down into the depression and hopelessness and end up addicted to something because that is how you get stuck out there. So, um, I had to take notes for this one. I mean, I've got, damn it, I missed a whole, Jesus, hold on. Look at this. Hold on, let me redo my hair. Yeah, I mean, you also got to realize this is something that has been on my mind since before I was even homeless. You know what I mean? I was always afraid to be homeless, so I was always thinking, oh, if I end up homeless, what am I going to do to make money? You know? Well, really, no, that's not true because it wasn't until I was living in Vegas when I was like, I need to, uh, I need to figure out a way to make money because my truck died in Vegas, and so then living a normal life with a normal job was out of the question. I had to figure something out to go out on the strip and make money, and I wasn't about to. I mean, I tell the story in other videos. Watch my Why I Was Homeless videos if you want to know what was going through my head at that point when I needed to make money in Vegas because I almost turned into a damn thug on the street, but that didn't happen. So all right, here's now I've broken it up into categories. Here's 41 ways to make money on the street. So, the first category is panhandling, begging. Now, anyone can do this, but the downside to it is it's going to hurt your pride to be sitting out there begging every day. There's people who try to make a career out of this. I suggest you don't do that. This is what happens to a lot of the people who end up on drugs. They end up just panhandling. Um, there's other things they could do, but it's just what they usually end up doing. So the first way to panhandle, you just get yourself a marker, get a piece of cardboard, make a sign that says homeless, hungry, anything helps, God bless. You know, you go the humble route. You're just begging for help. Um, it's not hard to get a marker or a piece of cardboard. This is emergency shit. I never panhandled once on the street, but I explain my reasons in other videos. So another way to panhandle is you make like a funny sign. I need money for weed. I need money for beer. I bet you can't hit me with a quarter. I bet you can't hit me with $1. Something funny. My spaceship crashed. I need money for parts. You know what I mean? Then there's going now in a city like New York, you got the subway, which is actually a valuable resource for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which you can hop the turnstile and ride for free. But you do that enough, you're going to end up getting arrested for it, which is what happened to me. I kept hopping the train, and eventually they started catching me, and um, at that point you really can't do it anymore because they're just going to keep arresting you. Um, so you could go on the train and just beg, which this a lot of people do this too. They just go on the train, they walk up the train and tell everyone like, I'm down on my luck. I got kids to feed. I need money. And that's what they do. Um, Another thing people do is they have a pet and they panhandle with the pet like a dog. They'll sit there with a dog, and believe it or not, people are quicker to give them money because a lot of people love animals. They don't care so much about people. Am I saying that's right or wrong? No, not really. But um, if you have a dog with you and you're panhandling, your odds of getting money are going to be higher. That's just a fact. I'll never forget one time I was on the train. This dude gets on. He looks like one of these like hippie type white dudes. You know what I mean? The type of dude who you ever seen that meme where he's like, "Yo, can I borrow everything?" Like this type of dude, like a white dude with dreads, or You know what I mean? The type of people who living on the street in New York, I've met a million of these people. Sometimes they're train hoppers, sometimes they're street performers, sometimes they're just party type dudes who just want to party and get wasted. But one thing they all have in common is they never hesitate to ask, "Can I borrow this? Can I borrow that? Can I get a cigarette?" And the other thing is they never have nothing to give. Just they just take, 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 take. And my policy with them is I'm not cheap with my cigarettes. Even at the worst of times, I was not cheap with my cigarettes because I know how it is when you ain't got no money, you ain't got no cigarette. Sometimes you just need a cigarette. So I'll I'll give anyone a cigarette the first maybe 5, 10 times they ask me. After that, I'll be like, look, I've given you 1,000 cigarettes and you just keep asking. You never even try to get your own anything. So here, I'm going to give you one last cigarette. Don't ever ask me again. And from then on, they'll even still ask you. And I'll just be like, bro, I told you last time, no. And that's the answer from now until the end of time. I'm never giving you another cigarette, ever. And that's my policy with them. So that covers the panhandlers. Now, I'll get to the I'll get to this one. Hold on. So now here's another. Now this is the next category. This is kind of the thievery. So now my if you ever seen that movie, Heaven Knows What. I keep mentioning that movie lately, but it keeps popping up in my videos. I don't do it on purpose, but one of my best friends, Ilya, they made this movie about him and Ariel. It was Heaven Knows What. Now, in that movie, at one point, Ilya and Ariel, the way they're racking up funds is they're stealing the 5 hour energy drinks. I don't know if they even still have these, but this is a real method that homeless people use. They go into CVS, they go into Dwayne Reed, Genevieve's, whatever, and they just steal all the 5 hour energy drinks, as many as they can. And then they go to the newsstands, which are all over the place in Manhattan, and they sell them to them guys. And those guys will usually buy them. They don't care. They don't care where it came from. So the 5 hour energy drinks is, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you this is what you should do. In fact, you should not do this because you got to realize you're not going to build up in life from these type of methods like stealing and begging, and you're just going to get stuck there. And now if you're just using it as an emergency to rack up some funds real quick to get a bicycle or something, or this is emergency type shit I'm starting out with. So the stealing method, you got the 5 hour energy drinks, which the newsstand guys will buy them. I couldn't tell you for sure if they still do that in New York, but I'm guessing they do. Them newsstand guys will buy anything. Um, but like I said, I don't suggest you live this way. Another thing is Red Bulls. That's people go into CVS, whatever, steal as many Red Bulls as possible, and they go and sell them to other characters running little shops and bodegas and newsstands around New York City. Um, so Red Bulls and 5 hour energy drinks are the most valuable things that you can get under those circumstances, and they're not worth much. You know what I mean? But it's a way to rack up $50 real quick if that's what you got to do. Now, then there's boosting, which there's people in New York who they're career boosters. Basically, they go in stores and they steal nice clothes, shoes, sunglasses, whatever. Then they sell them on the street. I bought a pair of Prada sunglasses for $20. They're $500 sunglasses. I googled the serial number, everything. They were legit Prada sunglasses. I still have them, but I broke them. Cool, best pair of sunglasses I ever owned. They just looked so cool. Um, and like I said, I'm not suggesting you do these things. This is emergency shit, and the whole boosting thing. You know, um, it's risky. The people I know who did that were the people who needed to rack up hundreds of dollars every day because of massive drug habits. So these guys need to rack up so much money that they ain't got time to play around with the panhandling shit. They are going, you know, and they're risking a lot because it's a felony if you're stealing over 1,000, and they're going for the most expensive things they can get. So there's that method. Um, and you got this new thing going on in New York where they just go in and they'll steal a shopping cart full of shit and then set up a table outside of stores and sell it, or they'll sell it on Facebook Marketplace. That's the new thing they're doing, and that's only because they've changed the laws to kind of allow that type of thing. I think they don't even arrest you if it's under $900 in New York now. So they're basically just like they've almost made it legal. Now, those methods, the stealing methods and shit, I'm against it. The only time I ever stole was when I really needed to eat and I had no other method. My buddy Ben, one of my best friends on the street in New York, it was a rough winter one year and I had about $500 saved up. We're already getting deep in the winter, so my money was dwindling. And then we had like this maybe winter 2018, 2017, around there. We had a couple of months where the weather was so bad I couldn't work. And my buddy Ben was brand new out on the street. I'm friends with his father. I'm friends with Ben. And so I was letting Ben just kind of hang out with me. First of all, because I liked him. If I didn't like Ben, I wouldn't have let him just hang out with me. And I was just kind of teaching him, you know, just helping him out and trying to um, just make life a little easier for him. So Ben, I was smoking him out every day with my herb. And if he needed money to eat, I'd throw him a couple bucks to eat. But my money was dwindling. So one day I'm like, Ben, you gotta today. We're up, we're in McDonald's. I'm drinking my coffee, and I think maybe I bought him a bacon, egg, and cheese or something. I don't eat in the morning. But so we're sitting there and I'm like, yo, today is the day, bro. You need to figure out how to make money because my money's dwindling and I'm looking at the future forecast here and it's not looking good. So I can't keep spending my money on both of us. You got to figure something out today. If worse comes to worse, you got to go out there and panhandle. This is how it is, bro. You got to learn how to you know, you got to learn how to depend on yourself because this is the world we live in. Even if I had $1 million, I wouldn't take care of you forever because it ain't doing you no good. You got to learn. So I was saying today's the day. I don't care what happens. I'm not giving you a red cent today. I'm doing this for your own good. So don't ask me for nothing. If you ain't got no money later, don't ask me. And so, I went out and did whatever I was doing. Anyways, we later on in the day we meet up. I smoke him out. He's like, "Yo, man, I'm fucking starving. This and that." I'm like, "What I tell you before, bro? Like, I told you I'm not. It ain't doing you no favor. This is, sometimes life teaches hard lessons, and I can't give you none today. So what I would do if I was you, I would go into CVS and I would steal a can of Chef Boyardee or some shit. That's what I would do. If I was in your shoes, I wouldn't ask nobody. That's what I would do. And so that's what he did. And when he came back, he was proud of himself. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not good to steal or whatever, but it is good to provide for yourself. And now you know. Now he knows for the rest of his life, if he's starving and he don't need nothing from nobody, he can go get it himself. And the next day he started trying to make money panhandling and stuff because he realized like, nah, bro, it's time to learn. So all right, that covers the stealing portion of it. And like I said, I don't suggest that you do any of those things unless you absolutely have to. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And if you really want to keep your karma straight and stay in, keep the gods on your side, when you get your money up, go throw them a couple of bucks for whatever you stole from them. You know what I mean? So really, it's just borrowing. All right, now another method, which I don't suggest you use, but it's one that a lot of homeless people use, is they get on food stamps. They take their food stamps to the grocery store. They spend it all on water, and they buy a cooler. They go into Central Park and they sell water. Some of them sell beers, some of them sell sodas, some of them sell whatever drinks, but they use food stamps to get them. And I I don't suggest you do that unless you absolutely have to, but that's another, I'm just telling you how it is out there. These are the things people do. Another one, they could sell chips and candy, which it's kind of some high school kiddie shit. You don't see much of that on the street, but you could do it. You know what I mean? And really, it's probably better than water because with the water, you got to deal with a, a heavy cooler full of ice and drinks and shit. You know what I mean? So there's those methods, which, you know, I don't really agree with none of them. All right, now there's some gangster shit you can do, which I suggest you don't do this either because you also got to realize that you don't really want to have a rep as like a dangerous gangster thug on the streets when you're homeless because a lot of people are not going to want you around. They'll be nice to you. They're not going to just be dicks to you, but they're going to try to avoid you as much as possible because they don't want to deal with whatever you bring. A lot of these gangster type people have enemies. They make enemies all the time, and nobody really wants to be involved in it. No one wants to get pulled into whatever beefs you got going. So if you want to be a gangster, you got to realize there's a lot of negative shit that comes with it. But here's the things that gangster type people do. Now there's selling weed, selling drugs. That's not so much gangster, but it's it ain't a good way to make a living. I mean, um, I've sold a little bit of weed here and there. There's not that much money in it. What was happening with me is I was smoking up all my profits, so I was just getting free weed out of it, basically. So there's that. Then there is you could be like hired muscle. Now, if you can't fight well, this is not going to work for you because you'll just be out there getting your ass whooped. But my buddy Ben, who I was talking about, one of the toughest kids I ever met, there was people on the street in New York who would try to hire Ben as their muscle to go out and beat people's asses for them and to defend them against other people. And so Ben was asking me if I thought that was a good idea, and I said, no, I don't think it's a good idea because these people, they ain't loyal to you, bro. Like, you can go out there and have this rep for whooping everyone's asses, which he already had that rep, but fighting for yourself is one thing. Fighting for money and people paying you to go do damage to other people, I don't think it's a good idea. You're out there making a bunch of enemies, and you don't want to be in that world. I told him, I was like, do what you want to do. If it was me, I wouldn't do it. He ended up not doing it. Then there's and I shouldn't even mention these, but like because I'm totally against this. But there's robbing drug dealers, and then there's robbing the tourists. And that's another two methods. Oh, a thing I forgot to mention with the panhandling is there's the aggressive panhandlers who they'll ask for money, but their energy is like, if you don't give me something, I'm gonna fucking take something from you. That's almost robbery in my opinion, and I saw it all the time in New York. Like because a lot of people in New York City nowadays are not from New York City, so they're easily threatened and shit. Those aggressive panhandlers that don't work on people from the city. People from the city are gonna be like, nah, fuck you. Do what you're gonna do, bro. You know what I mean? Me personally, that's a surefire way to guarantee I won't give you shit is by coming at me aggressively. Nicely, if you ask me nicely, maybe, but if you're like putting up like this threatening energy, I'm like, fuck no, bro. And like, I don't care what you think you're gonna do. That's not happening. I'm not, you know, I wouldn't even give him that much explanation. I'd just be like, no, and that would be pretty much it because they don't want to actually do anything. They just want, this is their method, so this is what they do. Um, and most of them know better than to be asking local New Yorkers like that because local New Yorkers who are from New York are not going to let you do them like that. The people who come there from Maryland or all these people who move to New York, they don't know how New York is, and they're a little scared and shit. that it works on them, it don't work on New York. All right, um, now we'll get, so that's the end of the thug shit. Now we'll get to the street performing. Now, street performing, if you have any type of artistic talent, you can make money on the streets with your artistic talents. There's music. If you can play an instrument, that's a great way to make money. In my opinion, every musician on earth should street perform at some point just for the experience of it, just to make, actual money off your talent and nothing but your talent. I think it's a good thing to know how to do. Um, and the musicians who I saw in New York who made the absolute most money were, it was a band that would play in Washington Square Park, and they had a very original and unique sound, and they would sell CDs the whole time. They made so much money. And then there was another jazz band in Washington Square Park. They're probably still there. They would make a lot. Then there was a piano player in Washington Square Park who would drag a piano out there, and he would make a lot of money just because of the spectacle of it. And he was good on the piano. So people coming in the park, they see a piano player, they're like, let me throw this guy a couple bucks. This is just cool. He would sell CDs too. Um, and I asked him one time because I was in the park all the time. I was like, what do you live around here? How do you get this piano out here? He's like, no, I live in like, I think he lived in Queens or something, but he was storing the piano. He was, um, he was paying someone around there to keep the piano in their storage unit or their house or something. Um, but so that there's music, and the more unique it is, the better you're gonna do. You know what I mean? If you're just doing the same thing everyone else is doing, it's not gonna be as successful as something like playing the piano, or there's these weird drums that almost sound like pipes, those like weird steel drums and shit. You can um, and then there's banging on the buckets and all that type of shit. But if you're doing the like drum type shit that's really loud and abrasive, you don't want to be around other street performers and artists and stuff because they're gonna get annoyed by you sitting there all day doing that. Then there's the acrobat street performers. If you're good at gymnastics, tumbling and flipping and jumping over people and stuff like that. You can do that. You can do that on the train, or you can do it in the parks. Those guys make a lot of money. There's contortionists who just bend themselves into weird shapes and shit, and they make a lot of money. Then there's regular street acts, like they're almost like clownish type acts. They do juggling, they do the stilt thing, they do the mime thing. You don't see that much of that nowadays, but it's still around the city occasionally. Um, Magicians, another that kind of goes hand in hand with the jugglers and all that shit. They do simple card tricks, or I mean, here's the thing, and I hate to like blow the magician's cover or whatever, but anyone can do that. Anyone can be a magician. You just Google how the tricks work. You buy the tricks in magic stores. Anyone can do it. If you're desperate for money, there's one way to do it. Just research all that magic shit and go do street magic. You can walk up to people and do card tricks, or you can pull a crowd and do it like that. Um, then there's tarot card reading. There was this girl Lola in Central Park who used to come out occasionally and sell bracelets. And she always had a cat with her. And I told her one time, I was like, Lola, if I was you, I would start reading cards, and I would get a turban for myself and a little turban for my cat. You'll make thousands of dollars every day. She never did it, but she was cracking up, and she was like, yeah, that probably would work. I mean, I think she would have killed it, but you can't, like, you got to do what feels right for you, and it just wasn't for her. But I was thinking, because I was watching Lola struggling all day, and I was thinking, if I was Lola, and also I kind of have some psychic intuitive ability, so card reading has always been in the back of my mind. But if you do it in a funny way with a turban, and the cat's got a turban, she would have killed it. I think. or you could be serious about it. But here's the thing: if you're gonna read cards, I suggest you don't do that unless you actually have some intuitive and psychic type abilities. Otherwise, whatever, do what you want to do. But then there's joke telling. I used to know a guy in Times Square, very aggressive, like very confident, very outgoing. He was a crackhead, straight up. Half his teeth were missing, but he was so confident and so outgoing that this is what he used to do. He would walk, he was a black dude. He would walk up to white tourists, preferably in the boomer generation, and he would tell them, he'd be like, yo, if I can make you laugh, will you throw me a buck or something? They'd be like, sure. And so he would tell them all the same joke. And I forget what it was, but it was something that played off their white guilt. Like something about what's the worst thing a white person can have or something. It was like, like I don't even want to say the joke because I don't want to, but it was like an offensive joke, demeaning to himself, and it would make them feel guilty. And they would usually give him like $20, and so I'd be out in Times Square doing my $1 one joke thing with jokes I wrote because I wanted to use my God-given gifts and abilities to make money, and so he'd be making like 400 or 500 bucks in an hour or two, and I'd make like 20 in the same amount of time, and he'd be like, "You're dumb, bro. Like you should be doing what I'm doing and this and that." But here's why I didn't do that. If I did do that, I'd probably still be doing it and living this crackhead lifestyle, even though I wasn't on crack. But I stuck with my guns and I stuck with what was true to myself, and I made a lot less money, but my life has changed, and I'm guessing his hasn't. He's probably either dead or in jail or still hustling up massive amounts of money and blowing it all on crack the same night and waking up with nothing every day. So that's the thing with fast money. Easy come, easy go. A lot of these guys who figure out ways to really hustle up a lot of money, what happens is they end up blowing it all on nefarious activities. I'll just leave it at that. So there was his method of joke telling, and there was my method of joke telling, where I was telling jokes that I wrote myself. I don't suggest you do my method either, unless you are very serious about writing jokes and doing stand-up comedy and stuff. Then another street performing thing I've done is stand-up comedy on the train. I would go on the train, damn, this video is getting long, with a little mic and a little amp, and I would do a quick set, and I would hit the audience up for tips. I didn't like doing it. I felt like I was forcing my comedy on people, but when I really needed money and the weather was bad, that's what I did. I would go on the train, I would do stand up comedy, I would get on the L train, and I would do my set in between Brooklyn and Manhattan because it's like the longest stretch of train. Or, believe it or not, I would do it on the 123 line up around Harlem. There's a long stretch, but here's the thing: the train is loud, the people are not in a good mood, they don't want to hear stand up. It's probably the hardest place on earth to do stand up comedy is on the train in New York, but I've done it. All right, now here's another thing with the street performing. There's people who make bubbles. They go into Central Park or Washington Square Park or Union, wherever some tourist attraction in New York City, and they get this bucket filled with like dish soap and water, and they make these big bubble wands out of like sticks and strings, and they blow these big, huge bubbles, and they get tips doing that. And then there was another dude in Washington Square Park. Now, this is a different. There's the bubble thing. You can do that. It's cheap to get going. Anyone can do it. Just look up on YouTube how to do it. Then I seen one dude in Washington Square Park, and I thought this was actually pretty brilliant and original. He was a really good wrestler, and when people would go by, he'd be like, "If you can get me down, I'll give you $100. But if I can get you down first, you give me 10." And this kid was like a state champion wrestler or something, and he would get everyone. He would get $10, And a lot of people in New York think they're tough. They think they're strong. They're like, bro, I'll get you down. Like, no problem. You're gonna give me $100? He'd be like, yeah, but you got to give me 10 if I get you down. They'd be like, all right. And he beat. I've never seen him not beat the motherfucker. The dude was just good at wrestling. He was good at getting people down. And it's not like he was slamming them down. He was getting them down easily and not hurting them. So there's that. All right. Now there's selling art. And here's the thing, you don't even need to be that good at art. You don't need to have any artistic ability to sell art. I saw artists on there. I saw people on the street selling prints of other people's art, which I'm against it personally. Like, you're not an artist, you shouldn't be selling art, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. So, well, let me go through the message. So, first of all, you could sell your original works of art. Banksy, that famous artist, which I think personally, I think he's overrated, but he was in Central Park, but his paintings go for millions of dollars. He was in Central Park selling paintings for $60, and he barely sold any, which is funny because the ones he did sell, those people paid $60 and sold it for hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's a Banksy original painting and it's worth a lot of money. But it just goes to show you that how unappreciated artists are when it comes to just on the street level. He was barely selling any paintings, and he was only asking $60 a piece, and they're worth millions. So they're selling your original works. Now, what my suggestion is, if you're a painter or you draw, whatever, you could sell the original works, but you should ask for a lot of money for them. What you should be selling is prints of your original works. So you just go get prints of your drawings and paintings and you sell them for $10 a pop. Um, and then, there's the people who sell prints of other people's work, which I'm against it, but there's people who do it. There's people who sell prints of memes like keep calm and carry on, that type of shit. They print it on a piece of nice photograph paper and they sell that for, they sell these things to the tourists. You could do portraits. I used to do bad portraits and I would do a caricature of people. So, you could do caricatures or you could do like serious portraits. Um, and I'll tell you right now, I'm giving everyone permission to do bad portraits. That was my original idea. There's some other dude in New York doing it now. If you ask me, that I was the first motherfucker I ever seen doing it, and all of y'all now have my permission to do it. So, I mean, really, you should do your own thing, but worst come to worst, you don't draw that good, make a sign that says bad portraits, and I mean, the other thing is my style of drawing is kind of cartoonish and funny, and it would sell. And I got a bunch of tips and tricks that I used to use. When I would draw the girls, I would make them real cute. They used to love it. When I would draw the dudes, I would make it slightly insulting and make it kind of funny. They used to love it. So those are the tricks for being a caricature portrait artist. Then there is those people who do the spray paintings. They're not hard to do. You could YouTube it and learn it real quick. They spray paint a moon and spray paint like a quick landscape scene, flick some white paint on it for stars. It's not hard to do. Anyone can do it. Then you could sell little sculptures if you're good at making things out of clay or carving things out of wood. If you're going to do that, my suggestion is you try to bless it and make it with the intention of making it like a lucky charm and sell it as a lucky charm to people. Um, but in my opinion, you shouldn't do that unless you truly believe that you can bless the thing that you're making and make it lucky for people. Carve little Buddhas or something, whatever. You could make jewelry with the beads and all that shit. Balloon animals, face painting, you don't see much of that, but it's out there. People do it. Um, and so, hold on. All right, those are all those methods. Now the last thing, this is like regular job type shit. Now this If you have no artistic talent, you don't want to be a thug, you don't want to do none of this other shit. I get it. It's not for everyone. Here's what you could do: get yourself a bicycle or a little scooter, like all the immigrants are getting. Someone mentioned this in the comments, which it's a good idea. Like, get a bicycle, do Uber Eats, get your money up, and then buy a scooter and do Uber Eats. And you know, I in New York City, where they just flooded the place with 500,000 to a million migrants. I don't know if Uber Eats is so good there now, but whatever city you're in, there's one way to make money. Panhandle enough money to get a bicycle, get on the bicycle, do Uber Eats, get your money up, and get a scooter or an electric bike, and keep doing Uber Eats, and eventually you'll be able to rent a room and get your life together. Another thing you could do in the winter, you could shovel snow. In the spring, summer, and fall, you could just go into stores and be like, "Look, I'm homeless. I don't want to just beg for food, but if I clean your windows, will you guys give me something to eat?" 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes, and they're also going to give you a couple bucks. Now, here's something that not a lot of people know. Muslims, if you ask them for food, they kind of, according to their religion, they have to give it to you. Now, there's homeless people in New York who take full advantage of that, and they're always asking the halal carts for free food. It's not right. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't just be milking someone like that because of their religious beliefs. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be exploiting that. The only time you should ask them for food, in my opinion, is if you really need it. But there's people in New York who just exploit that, and they ask them for free food all the time. Um, so there's the window cleaning for food. There's the snow shoveling. Last thing I'm going to mention this is for outside of the cities. Get your money up, panhandling or whatever. Go to the store and get yourself the bare minimum of cleaning supplies, Windex, like wet rags or whatever, and just get enough to where you can detail a car. Maybe get your money up and get some little portable vacuum or something. Get enough money to get the stuff to detail a car, and then put it all in a fucking cart. Go around to these strip malls, which are all over suburbia, and go from door to door and tell the people who work in there, "I will detail your whole car for $50 or whatever." They're gonna see a hard-working person down on his luck trying to make honest money, and a lot of them are probably going to hire you to do it because nobody wants to clean their own car, and you're doing it for cheap, make $20, whatever. And my guess is you'll make a lot of money doing it. Someone was telling me one of his friend's kids was on the street, and he took him to the dollar store and bought him some cleaning stuff and gave him this idea. And apparently, the dude turned it into like a business. Now he's got like a mobile car detailing business. He went from being homeless, pushing a cart around with a couple of little cleaning supplies in it, to now he's got like a minivan, and he's got like good equipment and stuff, and he makes a lot of money detailing cars with a mobile detailing business. So that's all the methods I know of. This video, I was trying to keep it a half hour, but it is what it is. So um, I think there's something on that list for everyone. Like I said, I don't suggest you do the illegal things. There's always a price to pay, whether it is through the law or through God's laws. I mean, at the end of the day, the reason I didn't go the criminal route is because I answer to God. I don't answer to people, and I wanted to maintain my relationship with God. I wanted God on my side. I wanted the gods on my side. I didn't want to be abandoned by the gods. So I kept myself totally legal and legit. But you're gonna do what you're gonna do, and everybody's got to learn their own lessons in life. So um, I guess that's the end of this one. I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for the subs. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for the Patreons, especially. And I guess that's the end. And yeah, if you have any other ideas, put it in the comments for people who need these suggestions because there's people out there having a rough time and they need suggestions on how to make money. So if I missed anything, feel free to put it in the comments. And if you have any questions that you want answered, try to get it within the first 30 because I usually try to answer the first 30 comments. So yeah, appreciate every single one of y'all, and I'll see you on the next one. Everybody have a good one.